Good afternoon. My name is Rachel McConnell, and I'm here with my colleague, Mary Curry. And we're so thankful for the Alzheimer's Society for having us today. And so we are prevention consultants with Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'll start off just with a little bit about me, and then Mary, maybe you can share and introduce yourself as well. But I'm a registered behavior analyst. I have experience working with children and adults with developmental disabilities, as well as supporting individuals living in the community with mental health concerns. And most recently, some experience in long term care homes, supporting individuals with neurocognitive impairment to assist in promoting independence, improving quality of life, and just making sure the individual or resident in the care team is safe. It's a little bit about me. Mary, do you want to share a little bit about you?
Definitely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary Shakuri. Been with Elder Abuse Ontario Prevention for the last almost 5.5 years, working primarily with seniors in the community, bringing education and awareness on a variety of topics. And today, thank you, Catherine, for inviting us in speaking about sadly what's become one of our most requested workshops, and that's looking after each other and protecting each other from frauds and scams. So I will hand it over to my wonderful colleague Rachel to lead us in a very informative workshop.
All right, thank you, Mary. So I'll talk a little bit at first, but feel free to ask questions in the chat box as we go. We also left some room at the very end to have discussion or any other questions you might have. And Mary can maybe help me tag team the chat box as we go through. But like Mary said, we're here to talk about a topic that is our most requested topic. And the reality is it has become its own epidemic and can cause a lot of harm across all age groups, particularly older adults. So we're here today to raise awareness, provide some education, and talk about how we can keep ourselves safe and more importantly, our money safe as well. Okay, I'm going to start us off also with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territories of a number of First Nations and acknowledge their stewardship of this land and its waters as protectors of this natural abundance throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land that remains their home to this day. And may this relationship be one of true reconciliation, peace, and friendship based in honor and deep respect. And I'm currently presenting from Hamilton. I'm very appreciative and grateful for living on the land that is not mine, and the colonization of these lands are ongoing, and there's a lot of work to be done, and that still needs to be completed as a collective to support the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission Committee. So I continue personally to educate myself on the history of Indigenous communities, recognizing that, again, there's a lot more work to be done. Okay, as you know, this session is being recorded. I want to make sure that we feel comfortable this is an open and safe place, but please only share what you're comfortable sharing on this type of forum, because I know sometimes we have some personal stories. So just be mindful of what you want to share. Myself and Mary will be sure to share our contact information at the end. And so you're more than welcome to reach out and we can assist on you on a more personal level if that's what you choose to do. Okay, so before we get into it, we want to share a little bit about Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario, as maybe this is the first time you've heard about us. So currently, we're the only funded government program in Ontario to come and speak to you about topics related to elder abuse, and that supports Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse. And so our mission of EAPO is to envision Ontario where all seniors are free from ageism and abuse, and this vision is really rooted in the belief that every individual deserves respect and protection of their human rights. And so what is the Ontario strategy to combat elder abuse? Well, there's three priorities. So the first priority is the coordination of community services. So that's the blue box on the left. And that's really forming strong partnerships that facilitate information sharing and support when dealing with elder abuse. So we have about 35 to 40 elder abuse networks across Ontario and that are meeting the unique needs of their local communities in preventing elder abuse. So we connect with all of them to provide support. And then the second priority would be what we're doing today. So learning about how to keep ourselves safe, making sure that we live the life that we want to live, but then also knowing where to access information should we need it. And then finally, training frontline staff. So people working directly with older adults, providing people with knowledge, the skills, and ability to recognize and respond to elder abuse as well. So, the agenda today, we're going to speak a little bit about various types of frauds and scams that are happening, and some that are, targeting older adults. Again, my goal here is not to make anyone fearful, but I also want to be realistic and share what's happening. And our goal today is to ensure you walk away feeling empowered, knowing how to protect yourself and those around you, and really feeling comfortable with saying no. Okay, so no is kind of our power word today. So frauds, scams, and cyber crimes are everywhere. Some are targeting older adults, but the reality is it can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And the important thing to remember is if it does happen, it's never your fault. Please don't blame yourself or the person that it happened to. You didn't do anything wrong. Please keep in mind that these are professionals. They're professional, they're experts at what they do. They do this for a living, they know what works, and they're going to continue to find ways, especially with the advances of technology, to get your money. So we're not, again, we're not here to blame or shame anyone. We're in a safe place to share and to learn. And I will disclose, and I will be honest, I felt a little silly too when you can get in your head, but this recently did happen to me. And I thought, gosh, I even talk about this topic, and here I am. I got caught in like a fraud scam type of situation. So I was paying at a parking meter recently, and the parking meter wasn't working or didn't seem to be. Yeah, it didn't seem to be working. And so it had a little thing with a QR code to scan to get to download the app to pay. And I do have some apps for, Green Pea. So I thought, okay, that's not unheard of. I scanned it. It asked for my credit card information. It said it would charge me $4, which is exactly what it should charge me. I did it. I got charged $4 that day. I looked at my statement at the end of the day. It was $4. I thought, okay, we're good. The next day, hundreds of dollars, hundreds of dollars, hundreds of dollars. And instantly I fell for it. So I had to go to my bank. The bank flagged as well. And thankfully, we got to, my card was compromised. I was able to get rid of the charges, but that's not always the case. And we know that. So I'm only sharing that because it really, truly can happen so quick. So we really need to stay kind of sharp on anything that could be coming at us from anywhere. Okay. So, financial abuse, frauds, and scams is marked as the crime of the 21st century due to its prevalence and overall impact. So, it's really critical that we know how to protect ourselves from potential frauds and scams and any type of financial abuse. And financial abuse is one of the most common types of abuse that we see, that's also tied to emotional abuse. Um, Thank you, Mary. So, I have two screens here and I can see the chat on this side going. Thank you for putting those in. And I don't have the definition here, but financial abuse is defined as any improper conduct done with or without the informed consent of the older adult that results in monetary or personal gain to the abuser, but also monetary or personal loss for the older adult. So, why does this happen? Pure and simple. Greed, right? They want your money. They feel like they need your money. And when we look at the current profile, it's usually typically somebody that might be unemployed or has some mental health concerns or substance use concerns. We also see situations where the abuser or the scammer genuinely feels they have a right to that person's money or they have a sense of entitlement. And this is more where we see maybe close family members engaging in harmful behavior. Maybe they don't know they're even engaging in this harmful behavior. So things like fraudulent signatures or improper use of powers of attorney. And that's a whole other topic in itself. And I'm happy to talk about it at another time if I get welcomed back to talk about POA or financial abuse. But today we're focusing on frauds and scams. And so there's also opportunity. So the abuser or the scammer has been provided access, or the person has been coerced or pressured into a situation where they feel like they have to give this confidential information. And sadly, we're not seeing this decreasing. In fact, we're actually seeing it increasing. So we really need to be aware. But that's going to end today because we're going to take our power back and say, no, not today. You're not going to get me. And this reminds me a little bit of that stranger danger. So I have a 4-year-old. We're talking a little bit about safe people. And so just think about, imagine if you were walking on the street and someone came up to you in person and said, hey, with Royal Bank. Can I get your credit card? It's been compromised. I'm going to help you out. I'll make sure everything's taken care of. Your money's not taken. Can I have your credit card? So if I ask you right now, are you giving some person on the street your credit card, your information? You could put in the chat if you feel that you want to share. Are you going to give anyone your credit card? And I'm going to guess you're going to say absolutely not. And I hope you don't. So when it comes to, that's somebody on the street, but when it comes to the phone or email, why do things change and you start to believe it, that it's more credible, that someone's asking for this type of information versus on the street? And so we've all seen this. So feel free if you want to share in the chat if you've seen things like this, but you might get an email from someone or organization that looks familiar, that looks like something like your bank, but it looks a little different. The email address isn't right. The greeting looks a little odd. There's a link to click on, and typically they don't send a link. You want a cruise, you get the CRA owes you money, or if you don't give me money, we're going to take legal action against you. So there are many different forms, which we'll continue to talk about. So we have to know that anything is coming at us at any time. So if it's a stranger, I don't know who you are, I'm not giving you anything. We say no, we delete, we hang up, we don't answer, especially when they're starting to ask for money. Okay. I tried to pull some stories here, but to be honest, it's hard to keep up because they're just ongoing. I tried to pull some stuff from Hamilton here, but it really is important to ensure that we keep ourselves safe and we know what to do, and that no matter what's coming to me, I know how to respond. And when we look at some of the data, I know this is 2021, but it can come at us from emails, mail, social network, door to door, text messaging, direct calls, internet. And what we see most prominently is the one in green, which is direct calls at 42%. And what I really want to highlight here is we're going to focus on the 4 R's. Okay, so first and foremost, well, I'll read them all out. So recognize, reject, reach out, and report. So first and foremost, do you know who's calling? Do you recognize this person? Do you know who's at the door? Do you recognize the email, the ad online? Does it seem too good to be true? If you do not recognize it, reject it immediately. Okay. If you answer and you realize it's somebody that you don't know and they're starting to ask questions around personal information, trying to get your money, you don't owe anyone a conversation or an explanation. Don't worry about being polite in this situation. Just end it. Take your power. You have every right to say no. And the minute you reject it, you put a safety lock on your account and your privacy. Okay. So if that happens again, you don't recognize, you reject. And then if it's somebody like your bank or the CRA, you have every right to hang up on that person and then call them directly through the trusted number that you know, or go to the bank, go speak to a teller, look at the back of your card, call the actual legitimate number, or CRA, log into your account and see if there's something funky going on. Just so then you know you're talking to the actual person and not in fear of talking to somebody that is just trying to get your information. And then if you have been a victim of a crime or fraud or scam or robbed of any money, we're going to report it to the police. Okay. So recognize, if I don't recognize, reject, no, hang up, then reach out to somebody that's credible, someone that you trust, and then also report it if there's anything that actually has been reported missing, or you did lose money. Okay, so we're going to go through a few different types of scams. So the first one being an emergency scam. So again, feel free to participate, but what happens when we are in an emergency? What happens to our body? How do we respond to emergencies? Some people are great at it, but most people, we start to kind of get a little panicked, kind of that fight or flight response. Maybe we don't think as clearly, and all we want to do is help, right? And it's this sense of urgency that I need to do it now. right? And that's the kind of pressure they're putting on you. So they're often preying on your fear of a loved one being hurt or in trouble. Um, and scammers may claim to be someone you know, tell you that they need money immediately. Again, that sense of urgency. So, some scenarios you might come across is someone needing bail money because they've been arrested, they've been in a car accident, or they're having trouble returning from a foreign country. They can claim to be any member of your family, or a police officer, or a lawyer. Okay, so that's the type of emergency scam that we see. Another emergency scam would be a grandparent scam. So, this is where the older adult believes their grandchild is in trouble. So, again, they try to frighten you to react immediately in getting your money. And with AI technology, although there's lots of benefits in workplaces, but also just in, day-to-day tasks, there are a lot of benefits, but there's also for scammers, this allows them the ability to clone voices or videos. They can streamline information online about people very easily. And so it's really important to have maybe a code word or within your circle of people that you trust, a secret question that only they could answer. So never give information. Additional information about you, about their name. So if they're like, oh, your grandchild's in trouble. Oh, Billy? Now you've given them the name. So don't share additional information, personal information, in the minute it starts to go towards money. No, 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 no. Okay. So going back to the 4 R's: recognize, reject, reach out, report. Okay. So did I recognize the phone call? Do I know who this person is? And then reach out to, maybe, if after you hang up, reach out to that grandchild or reach out to the parent of that person or a trusted person to make sure that person is safe. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about emergency scams, but now we're going to talk a little bit about um, the opposite of an emergency, really, the I love you scam, the romance scam. So I know I just met you and I'm madly in love with you, and I'm going to fly you off to Paris, or I'm going to fly you off to Bali. But you know what? My money's a little tied up right now. If you could just send me $10,000, or maybe it's smaller amounts and slowly gets to bigger amounts, right? Never ever give money to somebody that you have never met. And this again can happen to anyone, not just older adults. And it really plays on the emotional side. They're looking to exploit someone that might be a little bit more vulnerable or maybe experiencing feelings of loneliness. And this can be really terrible because not only is it emotionally devastating, but it's also financially devastating. And this can go on for many, many years because they can believe that it's real. And of course, you want to believe it's real. You're in love and it feels nice to be wanted. And but it's never nice when someone's asking you for large amounts of money when they haven't even met you. Okay, so we've highlighted some and you'll see some common themes here. So again, they want to develop a relationship really quickly with you. They want to confess their love without meeting you. Maybe they have a lucrative business, but it requires a little bit of money to borrow, but then they'll give you the money back. They'll claim to live close, but they have to work overseas, and that's why they can't see you. Don't ever cash checks or send money to someone that you haven't met. Okay, so these are just some warning signs and common themes we're seeing. Please let me know if I'm going too fast as well. Um, really playing on the vulnerabilities of people, right? So again, the common themes are sense of urgency, pressuring, possible threats, trying to build a relationship with someone who might be feel a little bit more isolated, asking for money transfers. And we know from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center that only 5 to 10% of victims actually report what's happening, and why is that? We touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but you know, often people feel ashamed or embarrassed that it's happened, the perception that, no one will believe them or law enforcement won't investigate. They are fearful that maybe their family will lose trust and take control of their finances, and they'll lose some independence since you fell for this, how you're going to lose all your money this way. Um, or maybe they don't even know that they're a victim of a fraud, or they blame themselves for losses, but we know it can really happen to anyone. So it's important to try and get ahead of it and know what it's coming, but then also if it does happen, how to go about reporting and making sure you're safe. Okay. So we talked about different methods in the pie chart, and so it highlighted that the phone is the most used method of how they can target. So we'll go through different avenues of how you can get kind of frauds or scams coming your way. So, for instance, if you were to get a call and it says on your call display Hamilton Police, again, don't rely fully on your call display because scammers are able to tap into that and so it's called spoofing and change whether it's the caller ID, the call display that's associated with that. There's automated dialing. So this is an auto dialer that just kind of goes through a list of numbers over and over. And once the call is answered, either a live somebody will connect with you, or it will be almost like a robotic voice, like a robocall. Um, we also see delayed disconnect. I actually haven't heard of anyone experience this firsthand, but there is something that once you hang up, if you think it's a scammer, they hang up and they hang on the line. And then if you to pick up and you go to call another number, let's say your actual bank, they actually are still on the line. You think you're talking to your bank, but you're still just talking to the scammer. So they just say to wait like 1 or 2 minutes before you go to make a call. And then AI, we talked about how they can clone voices and videos of people that you trust. Okay, when we talk about email or text messages, again, that same idea, spoofing, so they can mimic phone numbers, email address. Sometimes you'll see if you've ever gotten one of these, it looks like it's from a friend or someone that you talk to on a regular basis, but then if you hover over it, you'll see that the email is a little different. It's not actually the address or the greeting looks a little different. So again, they have the ability to spoof or to, play around with what those things look like automation. So these are they can schedule emails and text messages that come in at a specific time, a specific rate, and decide when to send them, and they can personalize them. And if ever your email is compromised, right? So sometimes they can take your email and impersonate you and get access to your whole contact list in order to fake an emergency to get money from potentially people on your contact list when we talk about mail or in person. So this one kind of, I'm going to be honest, I never answer my door. It completely freaks me out. So if I'm not expecting anyone, I do not answer my door. A lot of people have cameras now as well. But people coming door to door, if it's not a pal or a friend that you're expecting, do not answer that door. It really doesn't leave you anything. There's nothing that's saving you between the scammer and yourself, right? You're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position and they can present as a legitimate company. They'll put pressure tactics on you, so potentially they'll be in uniform, an ID badge, make it really official, have a clipboard, say I'm here to do your roof, but I can only offer you this deal right now. You need to give me your credit card right now or put a deposit down. They can also in mail, they can make things look very real. They can have templates that say, someone that shares your last name, they have left you millions. I just need your bank information. I can send it to you. Or you've been, the winner of a lottery or a sweepstakes or some kind of prize. They can have fake stamps. So also Canada Post, has up to I think $10 million in fake stamps that they find every year. So lots of different tactics that are happening at every different direction. When we look at social networks too, just being mindful of what you're sharing online and who has access to your accounts. So Facebook alone, there was 2.19 billion fake profiles found. I think this was back a little dated, but in 2019, just from January to March. That's a lot of fake profiles. And we're talking about Facebook Marketplace, right? So, and I have utilized some of those, but just being really mindful if you're trying to sell anything, being wary of who's coming to buy that from you, who you're buying things off of. They have social media bots that make fake accounts, fake reviews, fake advertising. And again, I'm not here to scare you, but it is the reality of what's happening in our day-to-day life. We see also compromised, if you're compromised accounts similar to your email, if they have access, some blackmailing, depending on what they have to to try and get money from you or to impersonate you to attempt to get fraud from your contact list as well. Um, People will post ads for free trials, discounted merchandise, fake job opportunities. And all of this can all look very real. And then we look at online shopping, even with your search engine. So I typically use Google, but fraudsters can still pay to get their websites at the top of the results in the searches. You can experience pop-ups that get you to click on a separate link or some separate window and then put viruses, right? So it's important to have antivirus software on your computers. Be wary of fake job postings that offer, thousands of dollars at an hour. Just question everything. Do research on your online shopping. Stick to the bigger companies that we know and that we trust. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is, unfortunately. Okay. So again, don't be afraid to say no. I may be a little bit of a broken record here, but I want everyone to think of that as their superpower. You don't owe anyone anything. Don't answer the email. Don't answer the phone. Don't sign the document. Don't answer the door under pressure. You do not need to. Take a step back, protect yourself. Only give information when you know it's a trusted person. It's a company that you know. It's 100% the people that you know. If you don't hesitate. No, no, no. And then you can always go back and check. Don't give out your personal information. So your bank is not going to call you asking for your credit card number. They know it. They know it already. They have your information. CRA is not going to ask for your SIN number. They also know it. They have that information. They don't need you to update that with links in your email. Go to your actual account, go to the actual teller, sign into your CRA account and see if there's anything wrong. Um, and don't just take it at face value with someone calling you or coming at you with an email asking for this information because there's a lot of companies that highlight we do not ask for personal information like that. Okay.
If I could just share quickly,
Yeah.
Rachel, thank you so much, hitting on so many great points. Regardless if it's a phone call showing you that it is the bank on your call display or the police, and they know information, they know your name, they know your account. They know your checking, savings. They do know information. Sadly, banks are targets of cyber crimes, which means their information gets hacked. And now these hackers, these scammers, these criminals can call you. They have your information, claim to be the bank. It's just been happening recently where, again, we're sending someone to your home to pick up your debit card. It's used in part of an investigation. We're sending an unmarked police car. So, because they know our name, they know information, they sound so convincing, we believe them and we become sadly a victim of these scams and fraud. So, as Rachel said, your power is no. Use your power regardless of what's coming through on that call display. The moment the conversation shifts towards money, my information, you're coming to my home. No, the bank would never do that, nor would our police departments come to your home to ever pick up your debit, your Visa card. These are frauds and scams that are happening right here in our neighborhoods, right across Ontario. So please be so cautious, so careful, even if they know your information, doesn't matter. As Rachel said, you hang up, wait a minute or two, and you call back the bank at a number you know and trust. You call back the police department at a number you know, and then you're speaking directly to the right people. So I just want to always help emphasize that I'm the second broken record, like Rachel. No, the word is no. Protect yourself, no matter what that call display is saying. Thank you. I'm going to be quiet now.
You. No, no, always welcomed. Um, yeah, and then also beware of, thank you for that, Mary. Beware of upfront fees. So if you've won a cruise, a boat, $1 million, a contest, wouldn't that be nice? Of course it would be. As Mary always says, where am I going to put the boat? Right? But when did I enter this contest? Who is this company? Why are they asking for money? So it's important to know too, in Canada, there's no prize fee, there's no taxes. So question, why do I need to pay money before I get a prize? It just wouldn't happen. Um, okay. Here we go, broken record again. But take a minute, ask yourself, could this be a scam? Does this make sense? So these are all the things that you tell someone you trust. Don't give away names of loved ones. Recognize, reject, reach out, report. These are the things that you always want to ask yourself. Could this be a scam? As soon as you get that little funny feeling, nope, nope, nope. And then if you are a victim of fraud or a scam, again, it's not your fault. These are experts. Again, it happened to me. I shared you my story. Um, collect your thoughts, stay calm, gather the information about the fraud. So think about the documents that you can gather, receipts, copies of emails, text messages. You want to contact your financial institution or the service provider that the fraud is related to. Report the incident to your financial institution if they're responsible for transferring money to somebody. You can place flags on your accounts, change your passwords as well. So I went to recently a Digital Smarts webinar, and they were talking about how you shouldn't have the same password for every account, and which can be very challenging, right? To continuously remember an update that has mix of words and letters and characters. Your email should be very strong. No one should have that password. Some people use password managers, which is great, a great way to keep all of them in one spot. But again, you need to be very careful with that main password, the password manager, because if they have access to that, then they have access to all of your accounts, right? You can report the fraud to both credit bureaus, so Equifax or TransUnion. Contact the police if you have lost some funds. Report the incident as well to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, which I think maybe Mary put some stuff in there, but I will put another link here to your. So this is where, so if you have been a victim of a scam, fraud, or cybercrime, contact your local police, file an actual report. And then also the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. So they don't do a formal like criminal report, but they will collect data to help the police. And it's more information, it's more to gather information to know what frauds and scams are actually happening in Canada. So, and I think maybe we should put some, Mary, did you put some stats in there as well? But okay, perfect. Yeah, so in 2024, oh, you put more recent ones too, because I have the 2024, 647 million losses were reported. So it continues to, oh yeah, you do have that. Perfect. Thank you. You're ahead of the game. Um, and they reported, the top scams and frauds that are happening right now are those investment scams. So building trust, investing, give me some, like, I'll have a little bit of money, but then I'll give you more back. The phishing, the romance scams, job opportunities to work from home, credit card or identity theft, the grandparent scam, sweepstakes, like claiming a big prize. Those are seem to be the main ones right now. Okay. So I'm going to finalize this. We still have a few more slides, but that was the meat and potatoes. But we want to be safe, protect your money, protect your information, use the power of no, be safe every day. Recognize, if I don't recognize it, reject it, then reach out to your trusted source and report it. Okay. Um, like I said, that's the main part of the presentation. It can be overwhelming and a lot to take in. And we have lots of wonderful resources. You can go online, look for our contact information. We have social media pages as well. We host a number of webinars and educational events, and we continue to bring awareness and prevention to the community and just ensuring that older adults are safe on various topics, not just this, but you can go on our website to see a little bit more on frauds and scams, and we'll put some links in the chat as well. But if you're interested in any other topics, don't hesitate in reaching out. We're just a phone call away. So if there is something like POA, financial abuse, anything, you just let us know. Happy to come back. Here are some samples of some resources or most used brochures that are used. If you go online, there's a directory of resources as well. You can test your knowledge with little mini quizzes to make it a little fun thing for yourself to test your knowledge on what you've learned. We always provide our number here too. So this is our toll-free number. I think it's also in the chat, our head office number. If you have any questions, not necessarily about education, but if you have concerns about yourself, a friend, a loved one. We have one of our consultants too that's also there to support you. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to myself, to Mary. Oh, yes, and also a friendly voice. We like to always talk about this as one of our Ontario partners. It's a warm, if you haven't heard of this before, so it's a warm line for anyone that's 55 or over living in Ontario, also Atlantic provinces. They're right now in the works of trying to get it, nationwide across Canada, but right now it is limited to Ontario and some of the Atlantic provinces. And it's just if you feel like you want to chat with someone who will listen, judgment free, maybe you're feeling a little lonely, or maybe you want to share a joyful moment, or maybe you're going through a bit of a life change. You want to talk about a movie that you just saw, the weather, a book that you just read, and you don't feel like talking to a family member, you don't feel like talking to your kids, but you want to talk to somebody. This will connect you with somebody 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., purely confidential. And it's made up of a bunch of trained volunteers that go through a rigorous process and they continue to do monthly ongoing training. But just know that that number is free of charge and accessible for you to use. Okay. We also have a wonderful podcast that is now in season two, hosted by our colleague Rayanne Rideout. And this is just another way to access fun and different types of information. It's called Aging Vibrantly, and it covers topics like talking about wills, powers of attorney, caregiving support, frauds and scams, ageism, and it's just a little bite-sized information. It could range from 45 minutes to an hour. Usually you can access it wherever you would listen to your music or access your podcasts, like Spotify, for instance. Here is my contact information. This is my email. Again, this is our toll-free number. This is our office line, but feel free to connect with me if you have any additional questions on anything that has been shared today. And then this, I'm just going to open it for discussion and questions. And thank you so much for listening. I hopefully you got a little bit of information that was helpful for you today. But happy to address any questions that you may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel and Mary. Definitely a very informative presentation. So thank you so much for taking the time.